Hi everyone, it's Angie from Feelinalittlebookish on Instagram. I decided to take the plunge and start my own booktube channel. I absolutely love the booktube community. First of all, it took me a while to even get on Instagram and start my own bookstagram page because I was so nervous that I couldn't be able to do it. Like I'm a full-time working mom of two little ones. Okay, let's give a little inside of who I am. I'm 32 years old. I have two little ones. I'm full-time working woman, and I am, a wife. So that's a job within itself. But yeah, I didn't think that I could do it. I didn't think that I could post religiously on Instagram for the Bookstagram community. So starting a booktube channel to me seemed so far-fetched, but I just wasn't giving myself enough credit. I didn't know how to manage my time. COVID came, and that's when I was like, okay, I have this many hours in the morning to sleep in now because I didn't have to get up at 5 a.m. anymore. I have this many hours in the evening because I wasn't coming home, like 2 hours after I was done work. So let me figure out how to manage my time, okay, I started working out again, and I started reading a lot more as well. Because, yeah, I would read, not as much as I used to. Because time, I'm tired in the morning and all this. So COVID really, as disastrous as it's been, and it's still being disastrous, it forced me to figure out how to manage my time and how to fit in other things, because I can do it and I know I can. So here I am. And I am also I grew up in Scarborough, Ontario, Canada, and I just live east of Scarborough now. So I'm a little Canadian girl. I hope that I can give BookTube back, what they've given me, which is, they've inspired me to read certain genres and also different types of books. I am a romance lover at heart, particularly dark romance. If you've actually gone on to my Bookstagram page, also I'll link it at the bottom in the description. I read primarily dark romance. I feel like for me, dark romance really fuels me and feeds my soul, my dark heart. So that's where I am as far as like what I'll be talking about on here. And I have like a good group of booktubers that I watch on a weekly basis. The booktubers that I watch on a weekly basis, or whenever they post, because granted, like, we're all doing our own things. They're doing their own things. Everyone's busy, no matter what you're doing. Whether you're a student, whether you're a parent, whether you're just working or a full-time worker, whatever the case is, everyone's always busy. So whenever videos are posted, I'm always like searching. I'm like, okay, who posted today? Let me see. The ones that I check out most of the time, actually all the time, are Jenn from the book Refuge, Lacey's Book Lovers, Jess from Peace Love Books, Mary from MoretoMary, and Riley Marie. I love Riley Marie, as well as Katy McPike. I'll check out, every so often, and Steph from Steph's Book Talk. I like checking her videos out too. But the first few that I mentioned are the ones that I watch on a day, like all the time. And I'm like, here are these wonderful women, and they're all working. They all got their own things going on. So why not? Why can't I do this? Stop being shy. Stop being hard on yourself. You can do it. And here I am, and I'm doing it. I'm still getting used to where I have to look when it comes to filming. I tried it out a few times before I actually did this this take. We'll see. If my eyes are going that way, like, I'm just so nervous. So, excuse me. So I'm aiming for 2 videos per month. I'm aiming for like a wrap-up video and a TBR. I'm hoping to do TBRs at the beginning of every month with wrap-ups at the end of the month. I don't read as many books. January I read 13. That for me is a big deal. February, which I'll be talking about in today's video, as well as my March TBR. February I read 8 books. I know it doesn't seem like a lot. February was a shorter month. For me, it wasn't a lot, but it was enough. You know, 8. It's not bad. Some people don't even read 1 book a year, you know, hey. Yeah, so I'll be talking about that, as well as I will be showing you some, like, I have physical TBR, and then I have e-arcs that are coming my way as well for March. I actually have 2. I started on 1. I received another e-arc on Friday. And then I have a few that hopefully I get. I signed up for, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. So far I only have 2. So yeah, let's get started. In February I read 8 books. I read Perfect for You by Lea Coll. That one is about Dylan, who is a lawyer, and Reed, who is a NFL football player. It takes place in, I want to say Baltimore, but I think the organization that Dylan is part of is in Annapolis. It's part of a series as well. I had never read anything by Lea Coll before, but it was so good, and Reed was so sweet. You know, he went through some things as a child. He has a speech impediment, so part of Dylan's organization, so the whole thing starts with her winning a date with Reed, so that way she can like get him to be the spokesperson or like represent the organization that she's part of, which helps children that have disadvantages as far as like education and whatnot. So she wins this date, she tries to get him on board, and you know, eventually he gets on board with it, but he doesn't tell her that he relates more to these kids than he's letting on. She doesn't know about his speech impediment. The thing is, during press conferences and whatnot, he doesn't really talk to the press. And when he does, he gives 1-word answers. Nobody really knows why. They just think he just doesn't like to do press conferences. He just doesn't like to talk to press. He just doesn't like to talk in front of people. So to most people, from the way that I felt, he just came off as like, you know, like someone you can't approach. But really, he was just scared. He was just scared that people would find out that he has this speech impediment and they're not gonna, you know, take him seriously, or they're gonna think something's wrong with him. He's also had issues with his dating life because women will, you know, obviously talk to him. He's handsome, whatever. He's an NFL player, but when they try to have actual conversations with him, he gets nervous, and then that brings out the stutter that he has. Anyway, they work together. They eventually fall in love and, you know, all that stuff. But that's not to say that there aren't issues. It was a good book. I, you know, kind of like to pause for a second. I won't be giving star ratings. I know that when I add my books on Goodreads, you've got to give star ratings and whatnot. I'm just gonna say what I liked about it. I won't talk about books that I didn't have fun reading. I don't think it's fair to the authors. I think every author puts their heart and soul into a book, and for me to say, you know, to like bash on a book because I didn't like it, it's not fair. Not every book is gonna be my cup of tea, just as, you know, books that I'm talking about is not going to be for everyone as well, and that's fine. I will never bash someone's work. So back to Perfect for You. It was a good read. It was a good read. It was kind of different from what I'm used to reading lately. actually in the past like year and a half. But it was good. I liked it. I think if you like that, you know, romance with like a slow burn, and you know the guy's like, oh man, I really like this girl, like this is that book for you. The next book that I read was Savage Devil by Daniela Romero, and it was about characters Bibiana, but they call her Bibi, and Emilio. She's a good girl, but she's leaving town and she's moving somewhere else. She just wants to do something wild before she leaves town. So she goes to this party and she hooks up with this guy. But the guy and her, they don't share each other's names. They're like, you know, let's just do this. I don't need to know anything about you. You don't need to know anything about me, even my name. So, you know, fast forward some time. She, you know, goes through some things. Yeah, and some things. And they eventually end up, she ends up at the same high school as the guy that she had that one night stand with. And he's shocked because he couldn't stop thinking about her after that night. And she's like, oh my God, it's him. But there's a reason. There's a reason why she's in shock. And I'm not going to give it away. If you want to guess, you can. Because, I mean, it could be a number of reasons why she's in shock. So anyway, their relationship progresses, but she really doesn't like him. She really doesn't like him at first. She, you know, she's kind of scared, but she has her reasons. She has her reason for not getting close to him. And he's just like, but why? Like, here's this, like, I could feel this connection, you know, and why? Why don't you like me? And eventually he finds out why. And they work it out. I mean, there's a happily ever after. It does end on that. That's not to say it doesn't, there aren't issues. It's part of a series as well. So there are going to be other books with the other guys in the group that Emilio hangs out with. But you get a taste. You do get a taste of who those guys are as well. They actually play, I guess, significant roles in the book. So that's cool. It was a good book. The next book that I read was And I Love You the Most by Willow Winters. It is the third book in the trilogy. It's the conclusion for Cody, Delilah, and Marcus. We find out where Delilah is, because if you had read the first two books, you'll know that at the end of book 2, Delilah was essentially kidnapped, and Cody and Marcus have to figure out where she is, if she's okay. You know, it's dark. It's a dark romance. There are triggers in it. Marcus goes through a lot as a child, and we're informed of, you know, more of what happened in his childhood, what he's gone through, what has made him who he is as an adult. There is an HEA, but actually, okay, there's an HEA, and then there's like, it ends with a whoa. What? Yeah. It was good. I love Willow Winters. Like, I love her romance novels, and then I love her dark romance novels. I think the fact that she can flip between the two, for me, it's seamless. I just love her. I love her novels. The fourth book that I read was Bad Bad Boy by Angel Devlin. Yes, this was they're all e-arcs that I received to read and review. Bad Bad Boy is about Liam and Phoebe. So Liam and Phoebe live on opposite sides of the track, essentially, opposite sides of the river. Phoebe's from Richstone, and Liam is from Sharrow. Yes. And it takes place in England. There is a bit of, you know, because it's set in England, there is British lingo, and I actually had to ask one of the girls from Bookstagram, Char, for a word that I didn't understand what it was, and she, you know, thankfully she was able to tell me what it was. But I understood the majority of it. Kind of like you had to, when it comes to reading lingo from another country, you kind of have to read the sentence over, I think, and then figure it out. It wasn't hard. It was just the one word that I was like, okay, does this mean that it's like a public housing building, like government run? And she's like, yes. I'm like, okay. Bad Bad Boy is part of the Rats of Richstone duet. So book 2 comes out towards the end of April, I want to say. Follows Liam and Phoebe. Liam, you know, grew up in a not so great family life. He's in a single parent home. For the time being, his father did pass away. And so his mom, however, I mean, it's hard, you know, you lose a spouse. It's hard, you know, I can only imagine, you know, how hard it is to navigate life after losing your spouse. So, you know, his mom hasn't picked herself up, and he feels like he has to take care of his home life, he has to take care of himself, so he turns to, you know, dealing drugs to fund his life. And so him and his friends, you know, handle their business, and there's an opportunity though that is given to them from someone in Richstone for them to be part of it. I guess it's an experiment. It's Phoebe's mom who has her own school and who is the headmaster, and she comes up with this idea to integrate people from Sharrow into Richstone and see how they will deal with it. It's just for part of the term. I think it's for, I'm trying to remember, I think it's for 3 months, I want to say. And one of them will get to actually live in the guest house at her mansion on her property. So Liam is the one that's ultimately chosen, and so he has to navigate his way through living in Richstone. And you know, Phoebe and him, they don't like each other at first. However, he respects her. I think you can respect someone but not actually like them. You know, she's not your typical Richstone girl. She you know, she's straightforward. She has her flaws, which eventually he finds out what they are. You know, she's not a typical girl. She helps him navigate his way around Richstone, and they become friends. You know, it ends on a cliffhanger. The cliffhanger was like, whoa. It was a good cliffhanger. It was a good cliffhanger. I'm excited for book 2 when it comes out. The next book that I read was Everlast by Alex Grayson. I actually read the novella Forevermore. So Forevermore was basically like a quick rundown of Molly and Lincoln's childhood leading up to them actually getting married, and they have their first kid. And so the novella ends on a cliffhanger, and then Everlast picks up after that cliffhanger. And you find out, you know, what their life is like as a married couple. There's a lot of the reviews that I read for this book. A lot of people were not happy with it being marketed as a romance. And at the beginning of the book, actually, the author, Alex Grayson, says, you know, it's not your typical romance. It's not gonna have your typical HEA. It does have an HEA, but it may not be for the people that you think it's for. For me, it was a romance. You know, you see this couple progress as a married couple, and, you know, they face their challenges and they go through life. You know, at the end of the day, things are not always going to be smooth for a married couple. It's not going to be a romance novel, and I think it was reflected so well in this novel. Even though it didn't end on a typical HEA, their love was evident. Their love was evident even after everything that had happened. They loved each other. Their love was, you know, a gift to everyone around them. And so I cried during this book, and I normally don't cry during romance novels. I normally don't, but this one really had me thinking to myself, like, okay, if my husband were to die tomorrow, or if my husband, something were to happen to him, how would I feel? How would I feel? I don't know. So when you start thinking about these things while reading a novel, like, you put yourself into the situations that the characters are going through, you know the author has done their job. That's just how it is. If you can realistically think, if I were in this situation, how would I deal with it? The author has done their job. And so this was a great book. The next book that I read was Tequila Rose by Willow Winters. Oh, I love Willow Winters. Tequila Rose was such a good book. It was short for me. I think it took like a day and a half maybe to read it, I want to say. I could be wrong. It follows Magnolia, Brody, and Robert. So Magnolia had just gotten out of a relationship, actually, with Robert. And so she goes to this bar one night and she meets Brody. However, she doesn't tell him her real name. She tells him that her name is Rose. And so they have their one night stand, and, you know, she's got to go back home because of unforeseen circumstances. So she goes back home, some time passes. Actually, a lot of time passes, I think it was like 4 years pass. And Brody is actually in town starting a business. So, you know, he's always thought about her because he was just taken with her as a person. And even though they spent just the one night together, he never forgot about her. So when he sees her, he calls her by it just made me laugh because her reaction to him. Anyway, he calls her by her name that she told him, and she freaks out, and she's just like, whoa. And so nobody can figure out why, like, how do they know each other, whatever the case is. Eventually it all comes out. You know, that night actually produced something as well. So it ends on a cliffhanger, and Robert is in the book as well. He's a big part in it. I like him at times, and then other times he's shady. At least he seems shady to me. And I'm like, is he a good guy or is he a bad guy? But this book ends on a cliffhanger, and book 2 comes out. It's a duet, so it comes out, I believe it towards the end of this month. I think. I can't remember. The next book that I read was Shattered Legacy by Caitlyn Dare, and this is book 1 in the trilogy. It was a good book. So here's the thing. When I started reading this book, I was thinking to myself, okay, this is a lot like the Elite Kings Club series by Amel Jones. Just in retrospect to it, you know, there's like a secret society and all this stuff. But as I got past, I think it was, once I got to the second chapter, I was like, okay, this is different. So we have Bexley, and there's Mia, and there's Cade. So Cade is an asshole. He is the leader of the secret society. Mia, I don't want to give too much away. I think, so he's part of that secret society, and then Mia is, okay, I will say this part. Mia is promised to him, but she's not happy about it. That same After she was promised to him, there was a party that happened at Cade's, and Bexley went to it. Bexley and Alex are friends. Bexley is not originally from town either. He only moved there because he was having some issues back home. So him and Alex go to this party. He goes outside because he's like, he can't deal with this party. He goes outside at night by the water. He sees Mia. Him and Mia, sparks are flying. Everything's, you know, perfect. And then they end up seeing each other at university, and he's, you know, he likes her. She likes him, but she's promised to Cade. And Cade, you don't like Cade. You don't like Cade. I didn't like Cade at all. There were a few times where the certain things he did and like said, there were a few times he defended Mia, and I was like, okay. He seems to have, you know, he could be a good guy, but we're not gonna find out till book 2. However, book 1 ended in a cliffhanger, and I don't know how anyone's gonna redeem themselves. I feel really bad for Mia, but we'll see what happens. It's steamy. There's Bexley is hot. Bexley is so sweet, but he's got this asshole side to him without being an asshole, if that makes sense. You know, like he will fight for his girl because they're together, but not really. But he's so sweet to her, and he's sweet to those that he cares about, and it was a good book. I am excited for this one. I am excited for book 2. I think this series is going to be good. I'm hoping Cade can kind of, because he may be a monster, but I think there is room for him to turn into a good guy. Maybe. We'll see. And finally, I read, I feel like I'm going to butcher this name, Sancte Diaboli by Emma Jones. It's part 1. Book 6 of the Elites King Club, but book 1, it focuses on Saint and Brantley. Okay, I have read all of the books so far for the Elite Kings Club series. First of all, I love ML Jones. I read Sicko as well. Sicko was good. When I started the Elite Kings Club series, I loved Bishop. I was like, yeah, Bishop, ooh. And then once I got to end of book 3 and like Malum part 1, Malum part 2, I was like, yes, Nate. I love Nate. Then I got to book 6 and I'm like, oh, Brantley. So Brantley was always kind of, he was scary. Like, he's actually scary. Not how he looks, just his behavior. He never really got involved with any of the girls. It was more just, he kind of kept to himself. You know, you'll find out why. I think you do find out why. I think it was book 3. Anyway, he went through some things as a child, so that really prevented him from getting close to anyone, except, you know, his friends. His loyalty was to the other guys in the Elite Kings Club. And but in book 6, part 1, we find out that he's, you know, he's got a thing with Saint, but not really. Like, it doesn't progress right away, you know. There's nothing happening right away. It's a good book. There's so much I want to say, but I'm not going to. I don't want to give it away. It was a good book. It was really good. There are trigger warnings, and it was good. There's blood play, and if you don't like blood play, don't read it. But all I'm gonna say is yeah, Brantley likes his blood, and I'm not upset with how he likes it. I mean, you do what you gotta do, and it was hot. It was a good read. It was good. I really like Bradley, but I feel like I'm gonna flip flop with all the guys in the series, and yeah, it was a good book. Um, I know that the Elite Kings Club is not everyone's cup of tea, which is fine. But I love it. It's dark romance, and I love dark romance, and I love it because my life is sunny and cheery and happy 90% of the time. So I need a little darkness all the time, maybe. But like in my imaginary world, I like my darkness, okay? Can't get mad. So those were all the books that I read in February. For my March TBR, I do have 8 books so far. I have 2 e-arcs that I have to read. One I've already begun, and it is Kiss Me First by Anna B. Doe. I read her first 2 books, Kiss to Conquer, Kiss to Forget. Those were part of the Blairwood University series, and then Kiss Me First is kind of like a prequel before the Blairwood University series. So in Kiss Me First, Emmett and Kate are the main characters. I'm only just over halfway reading it, but it's just her moving to town and them, you know, meeting each other and navigating their relationship because they are together in the Blairwood University series. The next book on my TBR is The Touch of a Villain by Holly Renee, and it's, from what I gathered in the blurb, it's a enemies to lovers bully romance, and it's part of a series, so I'm excited to read that as well. The cover is beautiful. Like, God, I wish I could take pictures that good. And then my physical copies. Next book on my TBR is How to Fail at Flirting by Denise Williams. This one I got as a present from my friend Tanisha. She also is a bookstagrammer. I'll link her below. Her page is wonderful. It's essentially about a girl named Nyla who is a professor. Her job is on the line, and she's about to lose her job. And so she has a list of things that she wants to do. She starts doing these things on a list. One of the items on her list is to let the guy buy her a drink. And she does that. And it's something new. And his name is Jake. And so she's also coming out of an abusive relationship. So we'll see what and how this book progresses and how the relationship progresses. So I'm excited to read this. I love the cover as well. The next book that I have on my TBR for March is Hate Crush by A.Zavarelli. This one I actually got in the Mystic box for November, December. I'm excited to read this. This is a bully romance, enemies to lovers, age gap. So it's about this girl who's a student, and the bully and her love interest is actually her teacher. I don't think I've ever read a teacher. No, I haven't. I haven't read a teacher to student, teacher-student dark romance, or any romance that's teacher-student, so we'll see what happens. Actually, I've read Gabriel's Inferno, but I don't remember if that was his student. I read it so long ago, but I'm looking forward to reading this. The next on my TBR is Push by Nyla K. I love Nyla K. I have her on Instagram. She's hilarious. She's great too. She's so interactive with people on Instagram, and she's so transparent, and I love it. So this one here is about Ben, who is your typical dad. He has a daughter named Haley who brings home her boyfriend Ryan, and so they meet, they like each other instantly, they go away for a weekend. Ben, his wife Jessica, daughter Haley, and Haley's boyfriend Ryan. And it's it's a taboo book. I mean, you can kind of imagine. No, you can't actually. I won't say that. I won't say you can imagine what happens because, yeah, we're just gonna leave that to your imagination. I don't want to spoil it. I know I read reviews. I know I kind of like skimmed through it, and it's a beautiful cover. I skimmed through it to kind of just to see what would happen. So I'm prepared for this one. It's not everyone's cup of tea, especially with the content. However, I'm dark. I love dark romance. This is for me. Also, I love the matte covers. I really love these matte covers. The next book on my TBR is These Monstrous Ties by Tequila Rose. This is similar, from what I've gathered and what I've read online, it's similar to Elite Kings Club, but not really. It's a bully romance, and there are triggers in it. There's thoughts of suicide, there is suicide, depression, self-harm, blood play, and violence. So essentially it's about this girl, and her name is Lilith, and she meets this guy named Lucifer, and from what I gathered, her life is turned upside down, and so she's basically gonna get her revenge on Halloween, because last Halloween her life was turned upside down, and I'm looking forward to this. It's dark. I love dark. I don't know how many times I'm gonna say that. My next book is Truly by Carmel Rhodes. I love this cover. I love the purple. I think usually when I buy books, I don't buy it based off of what the cover looks like. I buy it off of the blurb, like based off of that, but I bought it for both, because look at this. Look at this cover, and look at it. It's so nice. It's so pretty. And it's matte. I love the matte. Anyways, it's about this girl, and it's the summer after her senior year, and it's supposed to be like this whole thing. You know, you're done high school, you're starting a new life in September. The summer after you're done high school, you want to like do whatever. So, however, her boyfriend breaks up with her. She ends up, from the sounds of it, getting involved with her ex-boyfriend's half-brother, Noah. And her name's Truly. So, we'll see what happens. It's a bully romance as well, from what I've gathered. And I love bully romances. However, disclaimer, just because I love bully romances does not mean I will tolerate it in my real life. My husband's like 95% normal. I'd say he's more normal than I am. So again, we may love dark romance. You know, I may love dark romance, but that does not mean that I want to bully or any of these situations that are written in these books. It's fiction, just as if, you know, someone were to watch a movie based off of a serial killer. They're not gonna go kill. It's fiction. Even in true crime podcasts, which I listen to, just because I listen to it doesn't mean I'm gonna go and exhibit those behaviors. It's just what I like. I like dark romances. And finally, we have The Predator by Runyx. It's a mob book. It's about the mafia, like rival families. So we have Tristan and Morana, and their families don't like each other. And however, they end up in a situation where they do have to work with each other, and you know, you can only imagine what happens in this dark romance, and mobs, and you know, people that don't like each other. There's got to be some good scenes in this. We'll see when I get to it, but the reviews for all of these books were really good. And yeah, so we'll see what happens. So that's the end of my video. I hope you guys all enjoyed it. I will link all the books that I talked about in this video in my description, as well as I'll include my Bookstagram page for you guys to all take a peek at. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm sorry if I was a little bit nervous. I hope that you come back and watch some more videos. Thank you.